Hi everyone, welcome to the session. I am Greeshma MS from the Department of Journalism. So today's class is about major genres in literature. So let's discuss about the varied genres in literature. We know that there are varied forms of genres, that is the various forms of literature. So let's discuss what are those. Let's discuss the main points. We have 3 points. The major genres in literature are of poetry, drama, and fiction. These are the major genres in literature. So we can discuss in detail, starting with poetry. So poetry. Poetry is one of the oldest genres in literary history. The word got its origin from the Greek word called poio, which means to make or to produce. And we all know that there is a famous definition given by William Wordsworth regarding poetry. That is, Wordsworth defined poetry as a spontaneous overflow of powerful emotions recollected in tranquility. So what do you mean by that? That poetry, it is actually a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings or powerful emotions which are recollected in tranquility. That is, a poet should need, or the poet will have to need, or the poet should have a peaceful mind. And when they are in a peaceful mind, there is actually an when they are in a peaceful state, there is actually an overflow of powerful emotions. So, and that is actually poetry. And that capability goes on to the creative poets or the writers. Now we have varied types of poetry. They are ode, epic, elegy, sonnet, ballad, and satire. So let's discuss in detail. First one is ode. So what is an ode? Ode is actually a serious and dignified composition. It is almost always in rhyme and longer than a lyric. See, an ode is actually as an address to something. We say about, or a poet can describe about a thing or about any person. So that is actually an ode. It is often used in the form of an address. Example, John Keats' Ode on a Grecian Urn. We all know there are different other odes. The photo I have given here is from the ode written by John Keats. See, this is the urn. You can see it in the picture. So this ode is actually an address to the Grecian urn, about the Greek literature, about their Greek art. We all know that John Keats is famous for Hellenism in his poetry. And so, where in this ode, he has described about the urn. This urn, completely all throughout his poem, we can see a fine description about the Grecian urn. So that is why it is considered as an ode, because it is in the form of an address. Then the next one is epic. Epic is a long narrative poem that usually deals with matters like events of cultural significance and heroic actions. It is always told by a third person narrator. So we all know that epic is actually a very long poem. It is a very long narrative poem. The major themes of epic is actually a valiant hero fighting against the enemies, or the braveness of the hero. And one of the famous epic is Homer's Iliad, and the other epic is from the Old English literature, that is Beowulf, whose author is anonymous. Next is elegy. Elegy is a form of poetry that typically reflects on death or loss. So when a poet writes about a loss of something or about any death of any person also, that can be considered as an elegy. It also covers war songs, love poems, political verses, and lamentation for the dead. Example, we have a famous elegy written by Tennyson, that is in memoriam on the death of his friend Arthur Hallam. And there are also another form of elegy that is known as the pastoral elegy, where the characters are being described as shepherds and they are mourning the death of a fellow shepherd. And there is another elegy that is known as the pastoral elegy, where the characters are all shepherds. And one of such famous pastoral elegy is written by Milton. By the name Lycidas. Next we have sonnet. Sonnet is actually a 14-line poem, and it is actually a 14-line poem with a fixed rhyme scheme. We can also say that these 14-line poems is being described into two parts, that is octave and sestet. The first 8 parts, the first 8 lines of the poem is known as the octave, and the remaining 6 lines are termed as sestet. William Shakespeare is credited with writing 154 sonnets, which was published posthumously. And there are also varied other sonnet forms: Shakespearean sonnet, Petrarchan sonnet, Italian sonnet, but the major form that is used is the William Shakespeare's Shakespearean sonnet. Now we have ballad. It arises out of folk literature and is one of the oldest forms in English. This ballad is actually the very oldest form. It was actually sung as a poem or as a song. It was actually sung orally, and then that was made into a work. A ballad is a type of a poem that tells a story and was traditionally set to music. Then we have the greatest example, that is Samuel Taylor Coleridge's poem, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. The other form of the poetry is satire. Satire is a literary composition whose principal aim is to ridicule folly or vice. So the major use of a satire, it can also be found not only in poetry but also in prose also. The major use of a satire is to ridicule something. If you have to say about the rule of the government, or if there is any major trait in a person, you can use a satire to tease out or to mock them. That is the major use of the form satire. It is found in both poetry as well as prose. So the major example is Dryden's Macflecknoe, where he satirizes Thomas Shadwell and his traits. Thank you all. So this is all for today's class. Thank you.